Welcome to the Mythical Legends Podcast. Commentary, essays, and author interviews using Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey as the foundation. All stories have heroes. How they got there is our journey. To poetically borrow from Carl Sagan, in order to write a story, one has to invent a universe. In order to have a hero, one has to write the story. Our first episode is about Star Trek, storytelling, and the hero's journey. In upcoming episodes, we'll explore movies, TV shows, and books. We'll interview authors and discuss their books and how it fits into the hero's journey framework. In the end, we'll be much wiser and will fully grok the epic, mythical story. Some time ago, I attended a session sponsored by a local church called The Spirit of Star Trek. During the session, one of the speakers likened Star Trek as the modern myth. Let's let that sink in for a few seconds. The modern myth. He went on to say that Star Trek is probably the only franchise in the history of the world that has no boundaries or divisible lines. It is the ultimate humanist. Trek exists by which truth and morality is sought through human investigation. Each generation of Trek dealt with the human suffrage of the time. As humans inched our way through the stream of time, we changed. Our morals changed, with new knowledge of the self and information fueled by the fire for further discovering of the self. This is where Trek finds its strides and runs for the long haul. Its recent orgiastic leap has taken humans across the field of dreams in which anything is possible and all things have a solution. Trek has become our vehicle for telling the story of humankind. With our marbles intact and our wits tethered to the ball of sanity, we spin a yarn of truths, half-truths, and never-truths. Trek is the modern myth. A myth, by definition, is typically an ancient story dealing with supernatural beings, ancestors, heroes, and the gods. It purports to explain natural occurrences and cultural practices, both ethically and morally. The story of Prometheus is about humankind acquiring fire and the emergence of sacrifices. It's about the differences between mortals and immortals and our willingness to defy the gods even in the face of imminent discomfort or death. Where no man has gone before, places our hero Kirk against a new god, Mitchell. Mitchell believes he has reached God status and sees humans as instruments and creatures to be used for his pleasure, comfort, and amusement. With the help of another god, Kirk survives his ordeal and conquers Mitchell. In The Enemy Within, Kirk, the mortal, has his good and evil parts separated. A part neither Kirks are able to perform either morally or competently. The dichotomy of the human spirit is exposed and analyzed, revealing that mortal man must have within him the seeds of destructive and aggressive tendencies and a moral and ethical gatekeeper to keep it in check. Mortals are not like gods and therefore must behave in a manner acceptable to society. In The Dagger of the Mind, Kirk, still our mortal man, must withstand the evils of another mortal man who aspires to be God. Dr. Adams' thirst for power and control nearly drains Kirk's strength of will. In the end, Adams becomes a victim of his own folly of mind control, thus telling us that mortal man may not become gods through acts of deception and manipulation. We must attain godhood by other means. The original series was born out of the Cold War. World War II and the Korean War was still fresh in our minds, and the Vietnam War was still getting into full swing. As a country, we were changing our morals and reevaluating what it was to be an American. The original series, consensually conscious or unconscious, was telling us that mistrust, unregulated power, misguided control, and unbridled lust would, could, and should lead to our destruction. Collectively, we, as a group of humans, sat in front of a television and watched a show that, like some other shows before it, tried to put into perspective the meaning of our moral values. We watched and absorbed the interplay between man and would-be gods, between good, evil, and a mixture of both. We sat, watched, and enjoyed this show. It exposed our soft underbelly and let us look into the Emperor's mirror, where we became beholden to our own spirits. We witnessed the nakedness of our souls and questioned who we were, are, and shall be. This show became our Odyssey and our Troy and our Gomorrah. It reflected us. This show was known as Star Trek, our modern myth. Stay tuned for part 2. So, what are you going to do after the game? Turn the TV on? Suppose I said there's a better way to entertain yourself. Reading. Yes, it's that simple. Reading works the brain differently than watching TV or listening to the radio. Adults who read have shown a better chance of staying mentally alert than those who don't read. Reading brings down stress and can make you feel better. Reading can also save you money. How much money does it cost to ride a roller coaster or see 3 movies? During that time, you could be entertained by reading. Do yourself a favor. Visit mythicallegends.com. That's mythicallegends.com. Click the bookstore link, scroll down and look through our selection of books. Click on a cover to read the blurb and first chapter. We offer a hard copy and or ebooks. Kindle, check. Nook, check. iPhone, iPad, check and check. Reading. It really can make you feel better and save money. That's mythicallegends.com. Joseph Campbell wrote that the myth was the oldest and most well-known of all storytelling devices. Passed down from generation to generation, we learned not necessarily more about the hero, but about ourselves and what we valued as a society. We told stories to make sure the next generation learned, at the time, accepted norms, morals, and values. Most importantly, we understood the meaning of life. And it was through this storytelling we embraced the challenges and hardships of living. Star Trek had become our modern myth. Whether consciously or subconsciously, the writers had tapped into a spring of human essence. Through the storytelling, the collective all absorbed parts of this essence. Some understood the meaning and with unrestrained desirous thirst drank deeply. Others gazed on the translucent surface, squinted in order to see past the image cast by society. Then there were those on the fringe who, as a means to escape the rocky shores of daily life, decided to swim in the murky depths in order to effectuate the true meaning of everything. Life, it may be argued, is not about living, it's about understanding. In terms of Buddhism, life is a journey that holds many answers along the way to the end. We suffer, we desire, we realize, we resolve. This is a core being of most established myths. In telling the mythic story, we come to understand the human condition. In telling the mythic story as a future history, we also come to understand the human condition. Star Trek is a humanist approach that conveys what we hold sacred and helps us understand many things. Through Star Trek, we learn the problem of evil. Most episodes focused on the evil deed and a resolution. It gives us a commentary on today's existence by offering us a glimpse into a future that has just as many hopes, dreams, desires, and promises. The future's problems are our problems, and thus the future's solutions must be ours as well. It is often said, to know the future, one is able to change the future. In creating a future and then storytelling it, we believe we can understand our present. Star Trek is not neo-stoicistic in terms that we must give up our passions. Trek tells us we must embrace them. One of the yardsticks used in assessing Trek as the ultimate storyteller is the hero's journey. In 1949, Joseph Campbell introduced the monomyth through a work titled The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Campbell had been teaching a class on mythology at Sarah Lawrence College. He popularized the idea of comparative mythology, a comparison of myths from different cultures. He attempted and succeeded in identifying shared themes, ideas, concepts, and characteristics among different stories told over a wide expanse of distance and time. That will be our goal, identifying each of the recognized monolithic storytelling elements. In essence, we will expose and compare the episodes to that of Campbell's hero's journey. The truth is there are many other TV shows and movies we can showcase as a modern storyteller. Stargate, Star Wars, Gilligan's Island, an endless list of perfectly good examples. However, Trek holds the title because of its global influence. This one fantastically amazing fact makes it perfect as a vehicle for telling the human condition. So, it would be fitting to start out with the very first official episode that launched Trek into a worldwide phenomenon, the Man Trap. This episode was not the first in production, but the first to air. What makes this an absolutely splendid story is that it combines so many of the major elements of the monomyth. The writers embedded all the necessary mythic archetypes. Campbell identified 7 characters essential in breathing life in an epic story: the hero, the mentor, the threshold guardian, the herald, shapeshifter, shadow, and a trickster. Each character has a unique role in moving the story, and of course, a character may be more than one archetype, with a few combined. In the Man Trap, we have the hero, a mentor, the herald, shapeshifter, and the shadow. Surprisingly, each character is not who you would think they are, and because of the short time frame, most of the archetypes don't fully become evident until the last half of the episode. Here's the show setup. The USS Enterprise arrives at planet M113 to deliver supplies to Dr. Robert Crater and his wife Nancy, whom Dr. Leonard McCoy was once romantically involved with. M113 had been home to the Craters for 5 years, where they conducted an archaeological survey of the planet's ruins. They are the only known inhabitants of the planet, or so we think. I've seen this episode numerous times. However, this is the first time I started watching the shows with an eye of a storyteller. What is most surprising, I'm seeing the show in a different light. I've discovered a treasure map with multiple X's, and all the pirates are dead. For instance, originally you would think Kirk is the hero. In this case, he is not. McCoy is. In a mythic story, the hero generally is self-sacrificing. The hero will usually endure some separation or hardship for the sake of the clan. In a way, McCoy does endure some hardship. He stands against his friends when they confront the creature, which just so happens to be the shapeshifter. In a myth, the hero must learn something in order to grow. Usually, it's some new wisdom he acquires and not overcoming an obstacle that makes him stronger. Obviously, a hairy creature sucking on your friend's face can be a tip-off that the situation is not right. McCoy gets his next to last bit of wisdom from Spock, who is fighting the creature by hurling Vulcan strength Hellmakers at its face. No mere human female could withstand that type of brutal punishment. The clincher is the creature finally revealing its true appearance, which I suspect was done more for the viewers. During the episode, McCoy follows the path of the hero. The first stage is called Departure. Normally there are 5 steps in the departure stage: call to adventure, refusal of the call, supernatural aid, crossing the first threshold, and the belly of the whale. Each step is important but does not necessarily need to happen, nor is it essential that all the steps happen in a particular order. In McCoy's case, call to adventure starts when Kirk mentions that his old sweetheart is a middle-aged woman and not the 25 curvy woman McCoy first sees. On a second encounter, Nancy appears to McCoy as she should. However, the audience is given a glimpse into the insidious nature of the creature because Darnell, the very first official series casualty, sees a titillating blonde female. Dr. Robert Crater turns out to be the Herald, as toward the end of the episode he finally tells Kirk and Spock what the creature really is. McCoy's refusal of the call is his clear denial that something is wrong with the entire situation. Nancy has to be the poor innocent victim. The next stage is initiation, the road of trials, meeting with the goddess, woman as a temptress, atonement with the father, apotheosis, and the ultimate boon. The hero may experience all of these or none of these. McCoy is met with a woman as a temptress in this stage. The creature, disguised as Nancy, tugs at McCoy's heartstrings. His love for her is rekindled, and his desire, though low-key, is definitely set to boiling hot. The last stage is return. Refusal of the return, the magic flight, rescue from without, crossing of the return threshold, master of the two worlds, and freedom to live. McCoy experiences rescue from without. The creature, in desperation, seeks the safety of a sleepy McCoy, probably going through apotheosis. Kirk and Spock are set to destroy it. Kirk, our secondary hero, fights the creature while McCoy, still in denial, watches. Spock, in a nick of time, wrestles the creature away from Kirk. Then he proceeds to strip away the creature's false nature by engaging it in pure strength. Spock's haymakers begin to pull McCoy from his sleep, and McCoy crosses the return threshold. And at the last moment, McCoy gives himself freedom to live by whispering, "Please forgive me," and squeezes the phaser trigger. A second and third shot later, the creature is dead. McCoy and everyone involved survived the ordeal, with McCoy coming out scarred but wiser. He overcame his obstacle, and the viewer feels McCoy's pain and loss. Thus began our mythic journey. I do hope you enjoyed this episode. There are many ways you can support us. Like the episode where possible, subscribe to our channels, and spread the word. Mythical Legends Podcast is brought to you by mlen.tv. That's MLEN.tv. That's the Mythical Legends Entertainment Network and Mythical Legends Publishing. MythicalLegends.com. Check out the Mythical Legends Publishing website for announcements, events, and of course our books. Until then, J. Carell Jones signing out.